The darker races of mankind, and the black race in particular, will keep the white race busy for the next 100 years in defending the interests of white supremacy. The black singer is coming with his song, the poet with his dreams, the sculptor with her conception of beauty and awe, and the scholar with his truth. The greatest marathon race of the ages is about to begin between the white race and the darker races of mankind. What Jack Johnson seeks to do to Jeffries in the roped arena will be the ambition of Negroes in every domain of human endeavor. The Reverend Reverdy Ransom.
Hello everybody, welcome to the people them. Happy Friday. Oh my goodness gracious. All the things that's happening across the world. It's like, damn. I mean, we knew 2021 wasn't going to be so good, but damn. Already? Y'all didn't even wait. They didn't get no time. Anyways, welcome to Flash Black Friday, where every Friday I flash black to a black hero who has made a difference within our community. Duh. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe so that you can get notified every Friday when I upload a new video. I'm not going to prolong this introduction, so let's get it on and started, all right? So today I'm going to talk about a man named Jack Johnson. Have you heard of him? Well, he is a black boxer and the first one to hold the heavyweight champion. Ah, damn. So John Arthur Johnson, aka Jack Johnson, also known as the Galveston Giant, which I'm trying to figure out why, because he was like between 6 foot and 6'2". A lot of reports say different things, but he was between 6 foot and 6'2". You know what, maybe it's because I'm a tall girl. I'm like, 6'2" isn't really much for me. Maybe around like 6'4" is tall to me. So, you know, you gotta be taller than me in heels. And I'm a pageant girl. But Jack Johnson was the first African American heavyweight champion. He is forever a boxing legend and a black man who persevered during the height of Jim Crow era. He headlined for over 13 years as the greatest, most famous and notorious African Americans on earth. Well, they didn't interview all of them, but that's what they claim him to be. He was a man that knew no fear. He was completely unsubmissive and he believed in himself more than anything. See, that is the key to life, guys. You gotta believe in yourself more than anything else on earth. He often referred to himself as Jack the Nimble, Jack the Quick, but he wasn't the Jack that jumped over the candlestick. Jack Johnson was born on March 31st, 1878. So he was an Aries, like me. He was the son of Tina and Henry Johnson, and he was the third of 9 children. Again, like, so many kids. These people pop, like, damn, chill. Let your body heal. Johnson possessed an air of confidence and a drive to exceed himself beyond the hardscrabble life that his parents had endured. This 6-foot giant made history as one of the bravest men in American history. Yes, he did. He did that because he was brave, duh. He's an Aries. We love challenges. Muhammad Ali once said, "I'm bold, but he was just crazy." In the early 1900s, Johnson became known as the Galveston Giant after defeating several of his counterpartners, but he had his eyes set on the heavyweight championship title. He wanted that. He saw it and he was like, I'm coming for you. Nobody gonna stop me. And nobody did. That title at the time was held by a man named Jim Jeffries. And he, like many other white boxers, drew the color line and said, When I have defeated all the white contenders, I will retire. I am not getting in the ring with a Negro. Honestly, I think it's just because they was scared. It was like a pride thing. Like, how nobody wants to get beat up by a Negro, especially in those times. Like, we're talking about the early 1900s. You see, boxing in its early stages was known as the white man's domain. Black fighters and boxers were restricted, and they were held back in this sport. Like I said, which white man wants to get beat up by a Negro? But you see, Johnson was adamant on that title. He set his sights and everything on that title. So Johnson would follow around Jim Jeffries and like, hey, so you gonna fight me? He mocked him, he harassed him, like, so what, are you scared or something? You scared? You look scared. He would question Jeffries' manhood. But Jeffries retired. And two men, one who goes by the name of Tommy Burns, competed for that heavyweight championship title. And of course, Johnson followed Burns around and said, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome to the people, damn, I'm here. Fight me if you're bad. He would mock him and he would question his courage and even provoke the press a little bit until the press stepped in and was like, hey, you should fight, dude. It's getting a little cocky. You see, Johnson had a desire to make the white man pay. He was scarred from his background, but he was not humbled. And while Burns was ducking Johnson, it only made the public more sympathetic towards Johnson. But you see, Burns did not draw the color line. Instead, he just put a price on it. He set a price so high that he figured nobody would pay it. His price was no less than $30,000. And you have to understand, back in those days, that was a lot. But then finally, an Australian man named Huge Deal McIntosh put up the money. And he said, all right, we gotta fight. So Johnson's team, of course, went to Burns and said, we got the money. Now you need to set a time and date because we're ready to go fight. At this point, Burns had run out of excuses and he was backed into the corner. So he had no choice. So he was like, all right, fine, I guess I will fight this Negro. So with his promise of $30,000 as well as shares for the movie that would be played in theaters, he said, okay. Johnson was only paid a mere $5,000 for the fight, which was still pretty good, but not as good as Burns. So on December 26th, the day after Christmas in 1908, the fight was here. It was time for them to duke it out like men.
Johnson closes in, completely tying up the champion. He forces Burns back in the clinches and literally handles the champion with ease. As round 11 comes to an end, there is almost a general feeling of compassion for the impossible task which Burns has undertaken. Round 12 was all Jack Johnson. In round 13, it appeared as though the police were going to step in and stop the fight as a result of Burns' weakened condition and the terrible beating he was taking. Here in round 14, Johnson rushes in, lands an uppercut, 3 left hooks, a tremendous barrage of punches, lefts and rights which have Burns helpless. At this very moment, in the early seconds of round 14, the police shut off the motion picture cameras and stepped into the ring, awarding the heavyweight championship of the world to Jack Johnson. Here, in slow motion, you can see the blistering attack. Burns was absolutely defenseless, just seconds before the police stopped the motion picture cameras and entered the ring to halt this very one-sided fight. Jack Johnson becomes heavyweight champion of the world, December 26, 1908.
This fight was considered the great battle, and it was inevitable to cause a race war because why not? A black man fighting a white man in a ring and they're both getting paid for it? Yeah, you better ensure that that's going to cause some riot and tension between both parties. Burns was quoted saying, I'll beat this Negro or my name isn't Tommy Burns, which in fact his name was not Tommy Burns, it was actually Noah Brusso. So now this fight was scheduled for 23-minute rounds. You gotta have stamina for that. I couldn't. When both men were placed into the ring, Johnson was just mocking him and emasculating him, saying things like, where'd you learn to punch? Did you learn to punch from your mama? He was even talking to people in the crowd during the fight, smiling like, this is such an asshole thing to do. Imagine somebody beating you up and they're smiling while they're doing it like, hey, ha, 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 shit. And Johnson was declared the winner, and he was declared the world heavyweight champion. Now, after the fight, Burns had claimed that, the fight was stopped too soon, and that the huge Negro was tiring fast. Sir, you're lucky that the fight stopped. You were about to get knocked out. Johnson was reported saying that Burns was the easiest fight that he has ever had. And after that, crime, just like they predicted, went up immediately. Johnson had a thing for white women. On his travel back home, he was refused a room from 5 different hotels merely because he was with a white woman. And on top of that, the black community had canceled his homecoming party merely because he was with a white woman. Nonetheless, Jack fulfilled his dream to become the world heavyweight champion. The white men, they were mad. They were big mad. They were big mad. A Negro, can you imagine a Negro with worldwide fame, tailored suits, wealth, nice cars, holding the most prestigious title at the time. And on top of that, he openly flaunted his relationship with these white women.
So long as I do not interfere with any other man's wife, I shall claim the right to select the woman of my own choice. Nobody else can do that for me. I am not a slave, and I have the right to choose who my mate shall be without the dictation of any man. I have eyes, and I have a heart, and when they fail to tell me who I shall have as mine, I want to be put in a lunatic asylum.
He did not care what anybody thought. He preferred to be hated rather than loved. Now, whites would normally tremble at the thought of having to step in a ring with him, let alone another black man. So then what happened was the Great White Hope era. Many white boxers stated, "When there are no more whites left to fight, I shall retire." So after Jack Johnson won the title, they needed to find somebody to take that title back. Duh. It belongs to the white man, apparently. Anybody who was the right complexion of over 175 pounds and 6'2", they were a perfect contender. So they started rallying them up. They picked woodworkers, plowboys, grandy dancers, ranchers. They just picked up people from everywhere. So one of the first fighters was a man named Victor McLovin. Now Johnson, while he was in the ring, he just toyed with him. That's what he did. He toyed with him. Then, when he lost that fight, they needed to bring in another contender, a man named Jack O'Brien. Johnson toyed with him once again. Then Tony Ross. Johnson toyed with him as well. Also, Big Al Kaufman. He got toyed with too. Then, a man who was the middleweight champion, Stanley Ketchel. They set up a fight in October of 1909. Ketchel was about 24 pounds less and 3 inches shorter than Mr. Johnson. So in order for him to look the part, he got a tailored suit that was puffed up, you know, make him look bigger. He also wore cowboy suits which had a lift to make him look a little bit taller. But then when he was in the ring, you could see the truth. Like, dude. Now, this fight was scheduled for about 20 rounds. Apparently, the longer that it lasted was the more that people were susceptible to going to the movies and buying tickets to see the movie. Johnson previously had promised not to knock out Ketchel, and Ketchel promised to not try to win by cheating. But round 12, Ketchel saw an opening and decided to sucker punch Johnson. Johnson was not happy about that. He gave him a right hook and knocked out half of his teeth to the point where some of his teeth were embedded in his glove and knocked the dude out. So the fight stopped.
Johnson smashes Ketchel all over the ring. Now round 12, Colma, California, October 16th, 1909. Johnson is down. It was a terrific right to the jaw. The referee's count seems fast. Johnson's up at 8. He's mad. Ketchel's excited, comes in wide open, takes a right square in the jaw. They're both down. Johnson gets up and the referee counts over Ketchel. The great Stanley Ketchel, the Michigan assassin, is out cold. Jack Johnson retains his heavyweight championship of the world.
Ketchel. Really? Now, naturally, of course, because Johnson is a black man, black fighters wanted to fight him. But he drew his own color line. He said, listen, I'm probably not going to fight you because, number one, there's no money in it. And number two, because The white men don't want to see two black men fight in the ring for the World Heavyweight Championship, especially because they're trying to take the title back because it's rightfully theirs. But the truth is, Johnson also knew that black contenders were a challenge. A man named Sam Langford chased Johnson through England, just like Johnson had chased Mr. Burns, and he chased him around for a shot at the heavyweight champion. And like I said before, Johnson turned to him and said, the white man does not want to see two black men fighting for the World Heavyweight Championship title. And that was that. Now, their search for this great white hope, they kept coming up with loose ends. They kept losing. They didn't like it. So they pulled Jim Jeffries out of retirement. They were like, you are our hope. Get out here and beat up this dude so that we can persevere and take back the title, which is rightfully ours. So it took a lot of convincing, but finally, after they drew some numbers and said, all right, the winner will take 2/3 of the $101,000 prize money. So Jim's ears stood up. He was like, I guess I can come out of retirement. I mean, or 101,000, 2/3 of that, sure. I guess I can do that. Jim Jeffries was quoting saying, and I quote, the portion of the white race that has been looking at me to defend its athletic supremacy may feel assured that I am fit to do my very best. You notice how he said he ain't gonna win. He said he's gonna do his very best because he was watching Johnson probably at his home like, dude is knocking everybody out. I know they're coming for me. And they did. And on top of that, he was like 300 pounds at the time, so he had to exercise, lose weight, all of this stuff. But he got himself ready and they pulled him out for a nice prize. Now, every detail of both men's training hit the media. The reason why they wanted this title was whites were so concerned and scared that blacks would develop an inferior persona and continue to spread their wings, which obviously they would. I mean, they didn't need Jack Johnson. They have already been doing so. They have already been demanding equal treatment, better rights, and, competing. So it's not that they were nervous that blacks were regardless going to fight back for what they want. And they always will. We always will. So the fight was scheduled for July 4th on America's Independence Day. All right? Not a good day. And this was in Reno, which was the sin capital. Now, there was numerous threats to kill Johnson. If Johnson won, they were just going to kill him because there's no way that a black man is going to hold this title and they're going to beat the heavyweight champion who has not been defeated. They're going to kill him. That's what they said. So the gates were armed with officers and they had to confiscate people's guns and weapons because these people were serious. I mean, we saw 2 days ago, right? Oh, America. So when they got in the ring, Johnson, of course, decimated him. He who has never been knocked down was knocked down repetitively. At one point, Jeffrey's team had to get him back up on his feet. And then he still went back down. Of course, we know Jack won. And when he did, nobody applauded. They all just quickly exited and left as quickly as they could. And then, of course, riots erupted all throughout the country.
July 5th, 1910. A word to the black man. Do not point your nose too high. Do not swell your chest too much. Do not boast too loudly. Do not be puffed up. Let not your ambition be inordinate or take a wrong direction. Remember, you have done nothing at all. You are just the same member of society you were last week. You are on no higher plane, deserve no new consideration, and will get none. No man will think a bit higher of you, because your complexion is the same as that of the victor at Reno. Los Angeles Times.
They took all their frustration out on black folks, especially black folks who were cheering and were happy that Johnson won. So they decided, you know what? We gonna get him. We gonna get him. We're gonna get him. They couldn't beat him in the ring, so they were gonna find the way that they know they can beat him in, which was the law. Johnson was convicted by an all-white jury for a year and a day for this Mann Act that was passed by a man named James Robert Mann. Now, this act barred the transportation of women interstate and foreign commoner for prostitution. It was set in place to stop the luring of women for the white slave traffic. So, because Johnson was traveling around with white women, they knew that they could use this to get him, and they believed that he was forcing these women to have sex with him. I mean, he's a black man. Everyone was. Yeah. And this all started up because 19-year-old Lucille Cameron's mother had claimed that Johnson had kidnapped her daughter and used his hypnotic powers to brainwash her. I mean, this is black men you talking about. They could sell you a freaking penny and tell you it's $1. Black men is not hypnotic. That's just how they is, Lucille's mother. She said that she would rather see her daughter locked up in an insane asylum for the rest of her life than to be a Negro's play toy. Well, your daughter had other plans. So, to avoid jail time, Johnson fled the country. He was like, nah, I'm not even going to do that. He fled the country. So then, eventually, they caught up to him. He was running out of money, and he struck a deal. They continued to search for their great white hope, and they found a man named Jess Willard. So they pulled Johnson out, and they said, listen, you fight him, maybe you'll be free. So Johnson was like, I guess I could do that. Sure. He made a deal to fight Willard, who was a decade younger than him, in exchange for his freedom. Now at this time, Jack was now 37 years old, getting older, a little less stamina, not in as good shape that he was in his prime. So, you know, they felt that they had an advantage. Now, Johnson, I guess he believed that, you know what, he's such a good fighter, nobody can beat him, and these are just white boys. So he decided he wasn't even going to train. He didn't do much training. Now, Willard himself, Willard was huge. He weighed 245 pounds. And stood over 6'6". Now, let me tell you something. If you're a black man and you weigh 245 pounds and you're over 6'6", stay away from me. I'm celibate, okay? Stay away from me. He had a reach of like 83 inches. And he possessed like a powerful right hand and a stamina which few heavyweight champions could actually match. The fight was scheduled for 45 rounds. Oh gosh. And virtually nobody expected that Willard would win this fight. So as they stepped into the ring ready to fight, Johnson tried to knock him out within the first couple of rounds, of course, because he's older. But Johnson was knocked out on the 26th round. Johnson lost his title after 7 years of holding it. And it would be about another 7 years for a black man to be able to fight for a title within that caliber. And about 15 years before a black person was able to fight for that title. They was big mad. Very, very, very mad. Many times they tried to kill Johnson because they needed to off him. One day a white man broke into his house with a gun ready to go and kill him, but the police were able to stop him in time. And another time a man named Brooks Buffington brought a gun and showed up to one of his shows ready to kill him, but he couldn't get to Johnson, so he ended up killing another black man. Rest in peace to that man, just because he was very angry. But Johnson couldn't be defeated. Johnson couldn't be killed. However, Johnson did pass away eventually. He wasn't murdered. On June 10th, 1946, Mr. Johnson, after being denied being able to eat in the diner and forced to eat in the black section of the diner, he angrily got into his car with his friend and raced down the street and ended up crashing into a telephone pole. And then later on, after he was transported to the nearest black hospital, he passed away. He was 68 years old. Johnson was buried next to his wife, who had committed suicide in 1912 due to depression. And that is the story of how this bold and brave individual named Jack Johnson, aka John Arthur Johnson, was able to successfully make his name in society. And he is still feared. If he was alive and in his prime, he would be in that ring, cocky as ever.
The colored races outnumber the whites, and have hitherto only been kept in subjection by a recognition on their part of physical and mental inferiority. But here we are, the hitherto dominant race, compelled to recognize that an American Negro, the descendant of an emancipated slave, is our acknowledged master at the one great physical sport in which actual personal superiority can ever be authoritatively tested. Does anyone imagine for a moment that Johnson's success is without its political influence? Jeff may smash Johnson when they meet, and by so doing restore us to something like our old position. We shall never quite regain it, because the recollection of our temporary deposition will always remain to inspire the colored peoples with hope. While if, after all, Johnson should smash Jeffries, but the thought is too awful to contemplate. Boxing Magazine.
If you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe so that you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Happy Friday. God bless you all. And remember, have enough courage to start and enough heart to finish, and learn something new when? Every day, of course. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.